Welcome everyone. We're having a historical interview today. We're going to pick the mind of Stanley Carter. It's October the 20th, 2016. We're going to find out about the area of 7th District of Overton County. And behind the camera is our director and our producer and our cameraman, Overton County historian Ronald Dishman. So if we don't look good, blame it on him. I'm going to start out with get Stanley started, just maybe on what part of the area were you born at and grew up? What area can you tell us about there?
Well, I was born at
I believe you told me Oakley, didn't you?
yeah, Oakley. I don't remember the name of the road. And but I grew up in the Ozone area. Went to school at Ozone.
Okay.
And went to church at Antioch.
Okay. Okay, the Ozone area. Now, a lot of people may not know. Let's kind of clue them in where the Ozone is. I'd say it's what, about halfway between the Independence community and the Taylor's Crossroads community.
Very close.
Very close. And you grew up down what is now called Carter Lane.
Yeah, at the end of Carter Lane.
Okay, who was some of your neighbors? Let's just kind of fill that in right now.
Well, Mr. and Mrs. John Reagan and his family, some of the finest people ever been.
Good. What about
and some more neighbors was Gordon Furl, his sister Maud Holt, and her son Ward Holt.
Okay.
They were mighty fine people.
Now, did they live back in the hills a little bit?
Yes, they lived further, well, their farm adjoined Dad's farm.
Okay.
And I've seen them several times every week.
They were not on a main road, I guess.
No, they wasn't on the main road. Taylor Lane leads into their old home place now.
Since we're talking about roads, let's talk about that old road that is no longer there. Kind of explain to me and to the viewers where that road went, and give us a little idea of the old road back through from Sells Cemetery. How did...
Well, from the Sells Cemetery, come on down.
Where is Sells Cemetery now? It's near what? Free Communion, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now leave there
and it comes on down to what they call the forks of the creek, and the Becky Spring is located on the hill just a little ways from the forks of the Big Branch and the Taylor Branch.
Okay.
And follow the Taylor Branch, you'll come out up at Taylor's Crossroads.
Okay. Now, in the 30s and 40s, was this a well-traveled road?
Yes, it was. Roy J. Smith was the mail carrier for out to Livingston, Tennessee, and that was the first vehicle I ever saw. I was sitting on the top of the bluff on my father's farm, and here come Roy J. Smith up Taylor Branch in an old T-model Ford.
So the first vehicle you ever saw is on this road that is no longer there.
That road is no longer there.
Yeah, that's real interesting. The Becky Spring, you mentioned that. Give us a little idea of why I hear it's kind of well known back in the old days.
Yes, it was very well known. It was about midway between Free Communion and Taylor's Crossroads, and it was a good cool water come out from under that mountain.
Mm.
And everyone was walking to and from Livingston, and when they got to that, they was well in need of some cool water.
So that
So
was,
there it was, coming from under that mountain.
that was a gathering place, I guess,
Yes,
for
it was
travelers.
a kind of a gathering place. And the reason it was called Becky Spring, Becky Sells married a Holman. They lived in the Hunter Cove area, and her husband, Mr. Holman, died, and she brought Becky, Mrs. Holman, brought her family back to that area. There was a house there, and it was all after that was known as the Becky House or the Becky House Place.
Okay.
And that's the reason. That's how the spring got its name of the Becky Spring.
And I happen to know that one of Becky's daughters ended up being my teacher, Audrey. Audrey was one of her daughters. She was a school teacher. Let's kind of talk about your family. What was your mom and dad's name, and how many sisters and brothers did you have when you was growing up?
Well, my father was John Wesley Carter.
Okay.
And he was from Mitchell's Creek area. My mother was Elizabeth Richardson Carter, and she was from the Ozone area.
Okay. Now, so she was a Richardson, and as you and I have discussed, we're sitting on Richardson property. By the way, we're on Nelson Cemetery Road doing this interview, 653 Nelson Cemetery. This is old Richardson property. Was that related to your people?
Probably was.
Okay.
I'm not for sure.
Okay. Richardson's owned a lot, didn't they? A lot of land.
From the Sale Cemetery area all the way to Ozone, and the Isom Wilburn Old Mill area.
Oh, okay.
At one time, that Richardson's owned all of that.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Well, I had 3 brothers and 6 sisters. And I've got 2 sisters living, and myself. Out of the 10, there's 3 of us still living.
Okay. Where did you go to school? Did you all go to the same school, or where did you go to school?
We went to Ozone
Okay.
School, elementary school.
Okay. In your early life, what did you do? Did you help on the farm, or what did you do? Kind of tell us some things you did. Some of your.
Well, just whatever needed to be done on the farm at that time. We had just horses and mules to work with, and just whatever we needed done. We cut wood for the heat for the winter time.
You said something about your mother was a Richardson. Do you remember any of your grandfathers or anything like that?
My grandfather, Henry Richardson, I remember him quite well. But my grandfather, Carter, my father was 8-year-old when his father died.
Oh, okay.
Zebedee Carter.
Oh, okay. The Richardson grandfather, what do you remember about him? Was he pretty old and not doing much then?
Well,
when you knew him?
all I remember of him is just more or less what people told me.
Okay.
Or he had moved away from this area to Crossroad.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
And he was a farmer. He never did own a house. He always rented. But all of the good big farmers always wanted him to work for them on their farm.
Yeah, it was sharecroppers, was it? Yeah. That was popular back in those days. Yeah, a lot of people. What about the Sells family? You got any of them in your family any Sellses or anything
Well,
like that?
Not
No.
directly. I know quite a few Selses, but I don't know how they come in.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, what about, do you remember what your first job was where you got paid?
Well,
Where somebody said, I'm gonna pay you, Stanley, to do this? Was it some-
it was right after World War II, Muncie Smith. I worked for
Okay.
Muncie Smith.
Okay,
Grub cutting briars,
that's good.
and he's the first one that ever paid me to work for him.
Well, that's good. Muncie Smith, grubbing briars, now that's, and then you,
Rubbing little bushes and cutting sawbriars.
that's a great story. You start your life grubbing and spend your life serving the country. Yeah, that's, we might just interject here. Stanley, well, right now, I was gonna talk about your service to the country. Tell us a little bit about what you did for our country in service. I mean, how many years and where all you went right now would be a good time since I've mentioned it.
Well, the years, months and days was 24 years, 6 months and 11 days I had on active duty. And I served in Korea, Vietnam, 3 tours in Germany, and less of my time was here in the United States. Most of it was at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, here in the United States.
Okay. And after you retired, I want everybody to know that we're thankful you have spent how many funerals have you served as military honor since you've been back?
Over 2,000.
Over 2,000. Wow. That's good.
I've got a plaque that disabled Americans gave me for last year. And
Okay.
over 2,000.
That is a lot of work, I'm telling you. We appreciate it, everybody. What about early recreation? In other words, things that you did for fun, like fishing, hunting, or whatever. What all did you do?
Fun was very few and far between.
Okay.
Most of it was work.
Okay.
And when the lake was come in, well, I'd walk about 3 miles to the lake, fish, catch me a mess of fish, take them back, walk back to home, dress the fish, and mother would fry them, and we'd have a good dinner.
Did you do much hunting?
Oh yes,
What did you hunt?
mostly possum.
Okay.
But there wasn't any raccoons in this area at that time.
Yeah. And no deer either.
No deer.
Yeah.
Rabbits, squirrel.
There's one other hunting I want to ask you about that's no longer done, and I think you know about it, and I want you to explain it because even I don't know a lot about it, and that's fox hunting. Tell us what happened.
Well, now my father was a fox hunter. His friend Johnny Jewett, John Reagan, and Bill Jewett, some of his friends, and all they did was just take their hounds out and let them chase the foxes. They didn't try to catch them to kill and get the hides to sell them for they'd get $25 $30 for a hide, but not them people. They want that fox to live for the hounds to chase it.
What'd they do? Sit around a fire and brag about their dogs?
Yeah. They'd be 10 or 15 dogs, and they knew the sound of each dog. Each owner knew the sound of his dog, and they could tell along in the...
Who was leading the pack?
Yes, whose dog was leading the pack.
So he got to brag if his dog was up there leading.
Yep.
Okay. I thought that might be the way it was, and I knew your father did that because I was raised right here, and I'd see them go around the road. They used to go over here somewhere and turn them loose.
Well, I own the place now.
Oh, is that where they turn them loose?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I knew they'd go around.
Charlie Holt place.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I said I own it, it's my son.
Yeah, okay. We're talking about some of the schools earlier. Give us some of the teachers' names that you remember so we can get them on record if you remember some of the teachers.
Well, Margie Parrott was one of them, Audrey Holman, and Mrs. Keeslin, what was her name?
Ardeen?
Ardeen Keeslin. And
If you think any of them later on, just speak up and say, I remember that teacher. Okay, talking about schools, do you remember were you at Ozone when the lightning struck it?
no, I wasn't.
You weren't there.
No, I wasn't.
Do you know any about the story so we can get it on record or anything about it? If you don't, that's fine.
Well, all I know is I had two sisters that was there, and they went amiss. They didn't know where they was at. They finally found them at Roscoe Martin's.
Really? Some of the students was hurt kind of bad when they had to go to Nashville, I think. Yeah, that's what I heard. What about pie suppers or ball games? Did you ever have any of those?
Oh, yes.
Tell us about a pie supper.
Pie supper, that was a wonderful thing. The girls would all bring a pie to be sold at the school, and the school would be making up the money for more or less get some books of some type. They'd have a pie supper, so all the girls would bring, and all of us boys would bid on them.
Try to get
Oh, they went high for 25 cents.
25 cents, huh?
Yeah.
But you tried to get your best girl's pie, huh?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they'd gather up on you.
They knew which one you was wanting, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
What about ball games? Did you have ball games, any kind?
Oh, some, not too much. We'd walk to Independence, and over the Long Maple. I never did come to Long Maple, but the Long Maple would come out to Ozone. They'd walk, and same way with Possum Trot. Possum Trot would walk out to Ozone to
Okay,
play ball.
okay. We might make a note that Possum Trot is called Plain Grove in Pickett County, but it's not too far out the road. Well, it used to be. The building's not even there now. Okay. We was talking about Ward and Gordon and Maud living back over there, how fine they were. I'm glad to get them on record. That was Gordon Furl, Maud Holt, and Ward Holt.
Gordon and Maud was brother and sister,
Okay, brother and sister.
and Ward was Maud's son.
Okay. Was there any more old home places back in the hills there that didn't have a road by them that you remember, or was it kind of most people out on the roads by this time?
Well, now the Becky Holman Road, from Doc Jolly, at the end of the Doc Jolly Road.
Okay,
That's where Becky Holman moved. When she moved from the Becky House place, she moved. I don't know what old home place that would be.
what about sawmills in this country? How many was did you know of any? Was there any around?
Oh yes, there were several, and would come in, set up at a company would come in by a track of timber,
Okay,
Okay, they'd bring in the mill, set up, and sometimes they'd hire some of the people in the local area to help cut the timber and get the logs to the mill, and then saw them up, and then they would send the lumber out of the country. I don't know where it would go to.
How would they haul that lumber, on big wagons or?
Well, some would be with mule or horses, but the bigger companies, they had their own trucks.
Trucks. I have heard that there was a big sawmill down in the Leech Holler. Do you remember one being down there? Somebody said there was a large sawmill down there. I didn't know.
I don't remember it.
Okay. What about grist mills? How many of those do you remember? Who run them and stuff like that?
Well, they're at Antioch, Isom Wilbur,
Okay.
Taylor's Crossroads, Bob Taylor, Roscoe Martin, and Virgil Stover.
Okay.
And on that, the slide, they call it, was, I can't remember the guy's name. It's on top there.
Was Sherman Garrett? Sherman Garrett?
Sherman Garrett.
Yeah.
And then on out at Possum Trot was Mr. Garrett.
Billy Morgan?
Billy Morgan.
Okay. Well, what about the grocery stores in the area? How many of those you have, and what all happened at them? And give us some kind of a good story or something.
Oh, well, that was Independence. And the Reeves store that in the west end of the community. And at the east end was Taylor's Crossroads, belonged to Coleman Brothers. And that midway between was the roadside store.
Okay.
Owned and operated by
Ernest
Crip Smith. Most everybody knows him as Crip.
Crip, yeah.
He got that name when he was a young person. He had some kind of fever and more or less settled in his hip. And he was more or less a cripple all the rest of his life. And he went with the name of Crip. Not
derogatory.
No, it wasn't derogatory about it. But everybody didn't know him as Ernest, know him as Crip.
Crip. What time did Cy Kennedy go in out there?
Well, that after World War II, Cy come in in the Overton area.
Okay. What about Quentin Bilberry's store? When did he come in?
I don't remember what year they come in, at the slide.
Yeah, that's what they call the slide, yeah. Maybe we ought to describe where the slide was. After you leave Crossroads going toward the Barnes Ridge, the road forks in 3 different directions there. That area was kind of called the slide.
Yes.
One road went down to what they called, when I was growing up, the Keesland Bottom. The other one went through the Mohawk Valley, and the other one down the Barnes Ridge.
Duncan Bottom.
Duncan Bottom. Yep. Everybody that's from Tennessee or knows anybody in Tennessee wants to know, did you ever see a moonshine still in operation?
Yes, I've helped with it.
Okay. Give us a little idea how you do it and everything, so if we ever decide to do it, we'll have
Okay, to begin with, you've got to sprout your corn.
Oh, okay.
And then when it gets to the correct stage, you'll grind it. Normally it's ground on an old sausage grinder.
Oh, okay.
And that was a hard job too. And then it was boiled, put it into a big vat, let it sit there till it fermented, and then you
Cook it off.
yes.
The steam.
And what you got was you got the fumes would go down through a vent, and it turned it back into water then.
Oh, okay.
And the spirit, it was nothing but the water, well, more or less, it would come out as a steam, and then it was cooled, went back into water.
Went back into a liquid, yeah. Liquid, yeah. Did you ever know anybody got caught making it?
No, not exactly. Someone would notify them. They'd get you cleared up before then.
Before they got there. I've heard of one guy, I'll tell this story, on the Barnes Ridge. They caught him and they brought him out to what they call a magistrate, and he fined him. He turned around and walked back down the Barnes Ridge and borrowed a worm from somebody and went right back in there and run the rest of it off.
That must have been Gordon Beeson.
Oh, me.
He was a mighty fine moonshiner.
Yeah, I've heard he was. What about the churches in the area? How many of those do you have? And
Well, at that time, the schoolhouses was used on the weekend as a church. Ozone was one of them. Lone Maple was another one. And Possum Trot or Pine Grove was another one.
And then you had Antioch there after
Yes.
the early 30s. And what about Crossroads? When they
Oh, that was two.
two there at Crossroads, right? One of them was Methodist. Do you know what the other one was?
Presbyterian.
Presbyterian. Okay. I didn't remember what that was. Oh yeah, and also Hatcher Hall. Forgot about Hatcher Hall,
Yeah.
but it's been there for years, I guess. And has it always been a Christian church?
Yes.
I think it has.
Christian.
I'm not sure. And they also had didn't they have the lodge there for years, and still, I guess, there.
And they've got a lodge there now.
Yeah, I think there is.
At one time, it was upstairs,
Right.
and then the
House
old house burnt. They built a new one. They used the downstairs a while, and now the church built the lodge a building. And the church no longer is it's just a church now.
Right, it had nothing to do with the lodge,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Well, do you remember the first television you ever saw?
He was in Kentucky. Me and Ray Smith we was a batch up in Kentucky, working on Lake Cumberland. And all I can remember just a little 9-inch
Yeah. Yeah,
TV.
yeah, it was a little. Well, I didn't know about this Kentucky deal. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get there? What were you doing? And so on and so forth.
Well, to begin with, working in Kentucky, I'd leave my father's house at 4 o'clock in the morning, walk out to Taylor's Crossroad, and Bill Coleman had a bus fixed up for us. He'd take us up the other side of Albany, Kentucky. We'd put in 8 hours of work there, then come back to Taylor's Crossroads. Well, I'd walk back to Dad's, get there about 8 o'clock. Okay, the next morning, the same way all week. And finally we got rid of that job, and a few of us joined up with another company from Arkansas, and we helped between that area on Indian Creek in Kentucky.
How did you find out about this work? Who told you about it? Did you,
I don't know.
okay.
Don't know how. But Will J. come in with that again.
Oh, really?
He took me and Bill Smith up there. And while we was up there, we met up with Bill Coleman. Bill Coleman's up there to get a position, and he's going to hire a bunch. Okay, we was the first ones he hired after he got the position.
Oh, okay. The Will J. that he is referring to is my uncle, Will J. Martin. Yeah. And he told me earlier that he was his first good friend. What about the first time you ever went to the big town of Livingston? Do you remember that?
Yes. The school participated in some kind of a, I don't remember what it was, but
Oh, Ozone did?
yeah, Ozone.
Big time, huh?
Yes.
Who took you? Do you remember? One of the teachers, I suppose.
Oh. Dora Maynard's father.
Oh, yeah. Can't think of his name. Yeah. She was
one of the teachers.
She was a Langford, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dora Langford.
I think our producer over there is coming up with some ideas, which is great. Oh, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, forgot about that. Tell us something about funerals and burials and how they set up with the dead or didn't, or what. Tell us a little bit. If somebody passed away in the community, what happened? I mean, did the community get together and tell us what happened?
Well, normally the person in the community that died, they didn't have any thing like a funeral home that we have now. The people would go in and bathe the corpse and dress it and have it laid out in the home there. And normally 1 or 2 nights or 2 days they would keep the body there, and maybe the 3rd day they normally would bury it.
Mm-hmm.
And one I remember very well was Tom Taylor. A bunch of us had gathered up there. It was on a Halloween night, and all of them left except myself, 2 sisters, Virgie Smith, and Will J. Martin. And we was all youngsters. All the old people left. And that was Gordon and Maud's uncle, Gordon Furl and Maud Holst. So all the older people left us there, us younger ones. We stayed. Ben Reagan come up early the next morning. He come in, relieved us, and we went home.
Did you kind of get scared or anything?
Well, they did. I didn't.
Yeah.
The wind coming, blowing the sheet that's over the body. They thought a cat was eating on the.
What about the casket? Where'd they get a casket?
Well, normally in that area, the casket was made at John Reagan's shop.
Okay.
So his casket was made there, and there was Tom Taylor's casket was made at John Reagan's shop, And my father hauled the body down from the Taylor place over to
Can't think of the cemetery, huh?
no, it's on that Junior's.
Oh, Nelson? No?
No.
I don't know what that cemetery is called down there. We'll think of it later, maybe. What about the digging the grave? How did they do that?
People would gather up.
Tell us how they, now I have seen this done when I was real young. Tell us about digging the grave and digging what they call the vault.
Okay. Normally, it'd be 3 foot wide and 6 foot long down to the vault. And then they come in on 6 inches on each side and dig so the casket would go down in the ground, what's called in the vault.
And then before you put the dirt in, what would they do?
It covered up with planks,
Yeah.
or puncheons.
Yeah. I have seen that a couple of times when I was young, but
And
that's not been done in years, but
over there in the cells, not the Cell Cemetery, the Richardson Cemetery, my great-great-grandfather's grave finally fell in. And I know the reason it took over 100 years for those puncheons. They're about 6 inches.
they're rotting. Yeah.
Took all that.
I didn't know they put puncheons in there. I knew they put planks, but I'm sure puncheons, yeah, before they had planks. Okay, we're going to explain what puncheons are because some people may not know. It's like our producer behind the camera. Tell him what a puncheon is.
Okay. A puncheon is a portion of a log. So it could be 6 feet long or 10 foot long. And that you'd split that down to more or less a little board,
Yeah.
and that would be called a puncheon.
I would call it like a half of a log or something. They used
Or
to
less, half a log or less is a puncheon.
less, yeah, or less. You used to make the floors of old houses out of that, puncheon floors. So it's just like a log hewed flat. What about, do you remember the dirigible that came through here in the 1930s? A German big airship. They crossed your place out there pretty close. Did you see that?
Yes, it did.
Tell us a little bit about seeing that. The reason I asked you, my mother was your next door neighbor, and she saw it. I knew you probably saw it.
Well, I can remember very well where we was at. We was on our way after Ed Smith. My mother and my brother was going to Taylor's Crossroad store. And it so happened, it's about midway between where my father lived and Ed Smith's. And here that Zeppelin come over. And I remember very well, you know, that about the war that was going to happen, all that's going on at that time. And my brother said, "Let's run, Mammy." He said, "It might be the war people." I remember that just as well as if it happened right now.
That's good. I like that. Well, I heard a story. It was the same dirigible or Zeppelin. Some call them Zeppelins. The dirigibles, airships. This old lady. This happened to be up in the edge of Kentucky. She saw it coming. She had no idea what it was. She hollered at her husband, and she says, "Get in here and put on some clean underwear. We're going to have to get on the gospel ship." She thought the gospel ship was a-coming. But I remember a lot of people talking about that. They didn't know what it was or they didn't know. Okay, travel. What about the travel in this country when you was growing up? What did you just walk everywhere, ride mules or wagons, or how did you get around?
Well, if you was just the one person, if you didn't have a horse, you just take off walking. But then there's a few, say a family, they take a wagon and team. Like that at Antioch. Year in and year out, they'd have, every year they'd have a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time it was a week long.
Mm-hmm.
And people from all over, wagons, they ride the mules or horses, and say a family come on the wagon, your grandfather was one of them off of the Barnes Ridge.
Oh, okay, yeah. Was there as many or more people outside the church as there was in it?
More outside.
Yeah. Little groups, I'd say, under trees and talking. It was kind of like a reunion or something, I guess.
Yeah, but when the preacher get up there, they get a little bunch at each window, so they understand what the preacher was saying. And then they'd work him over if they didn't follow it.
Back in those days, do you know where do they take them to be baptized? They didn't have what they called baptisters in the churches. Where did you go to be baptized?
Well, when Antioch was first established, they had a Bush Harbor there.
Where was that located at?
Right there where Ice and Willow Toll Mill.
Okay.
They had a Bush Harbor there, and from where we was at, you could hear them singing, and you hear the preacher preaching. And after so long, I don't know, I guess a month or so, they decided to have a baptizing. And down the creek there below my father's place was the deepest hole, the big beach hole. And from where my father's house was, you could see about a quarter of a mile, and to see up, excuse me, up to Mr. Reagan's. You see them coming in sight up at Mr. Reagan's, and they're still coming in sight at Mr. Reagan's, and they're going out of sight, then going to the old big beach hole, and the big beach hole is still there, but the old big beach is gone.
That was a long line, because I know, yes. We have bottled water if you want water. Okay, well, we talked a little bit about your service in the military, but how did you end up going in service? Did you get inducted, or did you just go join, or what happened?
Well, I was attracted to begin with, and then when that was over with, I got married. My second son, I'd been married about 5 years. My second son was born. He needed a lot of medical attention, which I couldn't afford.
Mm-hmm.
And the crippled children of the state was taking care of my son. That wasn't helping me at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was helping my son, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very well pleased with what they were doing. But I went back on active duty, so my benefit would take care of my son instead of that. So I stayed there on active duty until I retired in 75. 1 September 75 I retired.
Okay. I've just about all the questions. If you want to take a break, we might, unless, do you have anything wrong? we're back again. We had to take a little break there. We were talking about the puncheons earlier. How, did they use them for a time mechanism or something? How did that happen?
Well, they'd open the door and the sun would shine in, and they had it marked at a certain, if the shadow at a certain place, it was a certain time. And so they open the door, well, it's like two punches and a half being noon.
Okay.
A puncheon was normally a foot wide, a puncheon was.
Well, earlier we was discussing some burials and talking about making caskets. Did you help make a few, or
yes, I helped.
What did you do, and who did you help, and things like that?
I helped your grandfather, Roscoe Martin, build Charlie Holt's casket. He built there at Taylor's Crossroad. That is the grist mill.
While he was grinding corn?
Yes, while he was grinding corn.
So how did he grind?
Okay, he'd work on the casket. Well, first he'd put the corn into the mill to be ground. Okay, you turn that on. Then he'd go work on the casket, and he noticed exactly the time that half a bushel of shell corn was going out of that mill. So he'd go back, fill it up with the corn again, and back to the casket he'd go, work some more.
We talked earlier about Will J., which was my uncle, which was Roscoe's son. He said those three mills are at Crossroad. I think there was three there. On Saturdays, they would grind like 12 hours a day on Saturday, all day long.
Mm-hmm.
All day long. You and I discussed before we started this interview about some hangings during the Civil War. This is oral history. It's never been written down. Give us what you know about just word of mouth. Now, we don't have any proof that these happened, but it's been handed down. So kind of tell us what you know about it.
Well, that line leads down by J.B. Smith's on down to, which was the Taylor place. There was a road fork like, and there was a big cedar there. And I don't know why that big cedar's still standing, and no one would touch it when I was growing up. I don't know whether it was a rebel sympathizer or the Yankee, but it was one of the two was hung on that tree. No one would bother that tree. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether it's still there or not.
And then, what about out around Cy Kennedy's store? Was there supposed to have been a hanging out there?
Yes.
Back in close to David Richardson's, maybe, I heard, during the Civil War. Maybe a similar situation. So there's a few of these stories around, but.
And those trees, well, I don't know why no one would bother them though.
I'd say it was superstition. I'd say they were.
Like that Uncle David's, that more or less in the field. That old cedar had been struck by lightning. It looked in a turtle shape, but it was still standing there. No one would touch it, not cutting it down. I don't know whether it's still there or not. I doubt it now.
Okay. What about future folks? Have you got anything that you just like to tell the world, or kids, or adults, or just in general how you feel about this country, this area? Are we going to be all right, or are we just going down a bad road, or are we going to be all right?
Well, in my lifetime, we've done this, we've done that. We always come back. And that's the way it's going to be. Well, that's the way I feel about it. some people want to do this, some want to do that. But when the time comes, they'll all get together and work it out.
I agree with you. Well, that's all I have, unless Stanley has something else. That's all I have. Once again, I want to thank you for your service and for everything you do to help these veterans. And I know everybody else. And I'll just end it with that. Thanks for everything.